like just starts, like it just started.
Yeah, it does.
All right.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of the Double Comma Dreams podcast. Today we are going to be talking about learning to say no and what all that entails. And Theodore also has some little stuff he wants to talk about as well. But the main concept is learning to say no and why your blog really sucks because you're saying yes to everything. And Theodore has a lot of really good examples about how he's been held back from saying yes too many times. So this is going to be a fun-filled, educational-filled, and meat-filled podcast today. So stay
You
tuned.
knocked that intro out of the park. That was a great intro.
I watched a video on how to do better intros.
Really?
I told you I want us to get better at this.
That's great. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
learning.
I
It's all
guess
you.
right off the bat, we can go off into the example of like what gave us the idea of saying no as a episode.
Well, the idea is TJ has a lot of ideas, and he brings Nico along with these ideas. And Nico doesn't know how to say no to them because he has priorities too. So then I was like, yes, I'll help you with this. And then I realized I wasn't doing anything for my blog. And then I was like, crap, I need to just actually say no to this or no within my capabilities of not being able to do it. Like I could do the first part, just not the latter half.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the time to learn how to do the latter half when it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, so to give a little more context on that, I had this project that I'm working on that basically needed some HTML and CSS designed. And I'm like, Nico has experience in this. He knows how to do it. He said before that he kind of likes doing some of this stuff. I'll just throw it his way. And so I asked you, I was like, do you want to do this? And you're like, sure. And then three or 4 days go by and you're like, I think you called me up. I was at Sonic. I was eating a burrito and you're like, this is a lot of work. And I'm not working on my website anymore. And so we had the graceful conversation where you're like, hey, I think I got to say no to this so that I can keep working on my blog. That's kind of how that went, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it sounds really like I'm very like, oh, I'm not helping because I'm working on my blog. It was more that I was taking time to learn a skill that wasn't necessary for the production of my blog. So the biggest thing is TJ was paying me in articles, right? So my thing
The IRS is going to love that.
Yeah. So my thing was, hey, if I can write an article a day and I spend 4 days doing this, getting 2 articles a day would make it worthwhile. Well, I got to the point where it's already been 4 days and I already quoted him an article amount. And I'm like, I'm learning skills that I'm not going to need. And I'm taking a lot of time to try to figure this out. I really shouldn't have done stuff I didn't know how to do without weighing down the ramifications of what it would do for progress of what my actual adventures are.
Yeah, so when you first said yes, it sounded like an easy project and an easy win, so that you would basically take, if it took 2 days, you'd get 5 articles. Is that kind of like what motivated you to say yes? And then then you got a couple days into it, and I think specifically like the context was that a lot of CSS stuff has became a lot more advanced. Like you mentioned Flexbox, and I think Grid was the other thing.
Yeah.
And I started looking into that stuff. I was like, this stuff really, like when I was learning CSS, there was like, it was color, background color, font type.
Margin.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, actually, I think I gave him more than I thought I was giving him when I looked back and like started working on it myself. So I don't blame you. I really appreciated the fact that you like called me up. You're like, instead of just putting this off and like waiting another couple days and like, hey, I can't do this. Like you straight up called me up and you're like, hey, I got to say no to this. I'm not working on my website the past couple days, and that's what I want to do. So I really appreciated that. Like you just called that like up front. So then I was able to basically try to learn Grid and Flexbox myself. I'm not actually sure if that's what I'm using now, but I came up with a solution for it. So
yeah. And it was more of, as we mentioned, like you got to, I think, actually, I don't 100% know because I haven't heard a lot of blogger stories, but I would assume a lot of people get distracted by things that actually don't matter. And like learning to say no to what doesn't matter on your blog is going to help you tremendously. Like on my first one, it was about writing, which is odd. I wasn't skilled in that in any. I focused so much on design and like, does the website look great? I've designed the homepage 20 times, but I still only have 5 articles. Like, why isn't my website growing? So like, I needed to learn how to say no to design, that it doesn't matter right now. And like, what are people not saying no to? Like, what haven't you said no to that you're like, I shouldn't have done that?
Yeah, I've got some great examples here on another like business area of project I'm working on. But what I will say is when you were working on that writing website, I remember specifically thinking like, if he spends 5 hours doing design, what comes out of it, the website looks a little better. And there's good things to that. If someone comes to the page and they stay for an extra 30 seconds, that can be really helpful. But the other thing is, specifically, you did really well on Pinterest. And I was like, if he just spent that same 5 hours on Pinterest, what would it result in? Like you could, I don't remember how many page views per day or whatever you were getting, but I think at one point you had like 1 million impressions on Pinterest or something like that. And I was
Yeah, it
like,
was crazy.
the same input on both of those options, which one is going to have a higher output? And I think that's what it comes down to in terms of like saying no to things, is sometimes it looks like it has a higher output, but not really. And so you mentioned that I had some examples, or kind of hinted at it. And just in the past like 2 weeks, I've had people reach out to me and ask me to do things. And I would say maybe a little bit I'm a pushover. I don't like saying like, if someone's like, hey, can you, and obviously I actually hopped on a call with them. So it was like face to face and I was hearing their voice and talking to them. And they basically said, hey, for all the YouTube videos you have on your channel, can you go through, download all those, get the MP4 files, send them to us, and then also make like a quiz for each video. And in my head, I was like, that's actually pretty easy. I'll just pay someone who has that, like, not really an assistant, but someone that can go through and watch those and come up with quizzes for them. Then I can have those questions for my own self, so that if like I want to make a mini series or something, I can just pop those questions in there. And so I think there was something else that they wanted me to do. Organize them into like beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And the company that the person that I was talking to was like it's a big company. Like I think they were valued at over $1 billion. It's in the crypto niche, so that's probably why. But I kind of like fell into the trap of thinking that there's some big company, and I was like, I would love to like help you. And then a couple of days go by, and I started thinking, and I'm like, I just said yes to doing a whole bunch of free work for them. Like I didn't get anything out of it. They didn't say, hey, we'll do this for you, we'll give you a shout out or something. And so when I thought back to that, I was like, I probably just should have said no to that. Even though, I would have all those video files in one place, so that if YouTube deletes the channel, I still have the MP4 files. Even so that I have all those quizzes, so that if I want to make a mini lesson, it still benefits me. But I probably like it didn't affect my income, it didn't affect my reach or anything. So it would have helped them out. But the reason that they were reaching out to me is because they were like scraped on time. They needed something to be done really quick. And I still haven't done that. I need to like personally, I probably need to email them and be like, hey, I can't do this. Or
have you thought about reaching out and being like, hey, I know you're scraped on time. This is content I put a lot of time into. I don't see any reward on my side for my time being valued. Like, have you thought about asking them for something?
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is actually something I should consider. I don't know how I would word it to not sound like, I definitely phrase it like, hey, this is a ton of work for me. Am I getting anything out of this? And they did mention something about like, this is a little weird, but like flying me out to have me give a talk. I don't really have an interest in that. And they didn't necessarily say that they would pay me specifically. So I don't know. I just felt like a couple of days went by and I looked back and I was like, I think they may be taking advantage of me. And so that kind of goes back into saying no, because that is one example of like 4 or 5 things I've done in the last 2 weeks where I'm like, I wish I would have just said no to that, so I'd have more free time to do what I want to do. I had another example, but I can't think of it. The other example were like 2 protocols, crypto protocols, reached out to me and was like, hey, can you make a video on this? They actually didn't say, hey, could you make a video on this? I kind of just like leaned into the conversation. I was like, oh, you're thinking of like, you want a video that explains this. And then by the end of the conversation, they had kind of like, again, I almost felt taken advantage of, but it's probably because I'm more of I have the tendencies of a pushover, to where they just kind of like talked over me and was like, yeah, well, if you can make an 8-minute video about this, it'd be great. And by the end of that, like that conversation as well, I didn't receive any like, it wasn't a sponsorship or anything. So those are like 2 examples where I should have just been like, this is a no, unless you can pay me X amount of dollars for the amount of work that I'm going to be providing. Does that make sense? Like that's 2 examples in the last like 2 or 3 weeks that I should have just been like, I'm not doing it. And even then, even if they gave me a sponsorship of like a certain amount of money, I probably should still say no to that, because I'm working on those video lessons, that boot camp that I'm working on. Like that, I'm going to just stress myself out more, because then I've got to do 2 things.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to understand what to say no to, because you're like, you see something as an adventure, or you're like, yeah, this could help me, but then you like sit down for a moment and you're like, this doesn't help me in the way I know it needs to help me. Like the same thing with the first example of me helping you out with the coding is like, it would help me because I would still get articles, but I would find more value from me writing articles myself and learning that skill better to then have that. And instead of learning how to code in HTML and CSS even more to maybe need it in the future, or if I need to make little adjustments, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you were thinking even more, and so, like, not just the time that you spent on it, but also the effort of, like, what you were learning in that process, and so you valued, you should have said no to learning CSS because you valued more, like, the, finding writing a something, and, like, the skill of good writing and creating a
it's
good
like,
article.
it's like the person who goes, I could be writing articles or I could be fixing my car. Like, I'm going to fix my car to save some money, or I could just pay someone that and then just keep writing articles to make that money back or more money. Like, if that makes sense. Some people might disagree with that, given they're like, yeah, just fix your car. But like, if you don't want to learn how to fix your car, you shouldn't have, like, you should learn to say no to that. Like, my fiance's dad, actually, no, I can't say him. He hasn't been exactly like that. There have been people I know that's like, yes, change your oil. And you're like, no, like, that takes up too much of my time. Like, why? I can just drive in somewhere and pay 10 extra dollars and these guys do in 15 minutes instead of me going to buy the jacks, me getting the oil, me getting underneath the car, me getting burnt by the oil. Like, I
That's
could be like
actually
working on something.
That's actually something I've learned really intimately in the past, like, 2 or 3 years. So, you know the house that we've kind of built, it's more of like a garage, but we've turned it into a house? There's been
Yeah.
so many projects that I've just done myself. Like, actually, I will say when I was doing those, it was beneficial to me because I wanted to learn those things. But now that I'm in the position that I am now, it's like I would almost never do my own plumbing, even though I know how to do it, because I could just pay someone else like 3 grand, and then what I could do in the time that would take me to do that plumbing, I could make more than 3 grand. Uh,
Something to not fall into here, and I'm going to say this now because I fell into it, is saying no to
yeah.
something and then thinking that you're doing more to cover up that time. If you're saying no to something and then you're just going to hang out and you're like, well, I'm saying no to make more money. Well, you're not really making more money. You're just saying no because you're kind of lazy at that point. Like, if you say no to not changing your oil so you can write more, like, you need to take that time to find more business deals, to write
And
more
write more.
articles. So
Yeah.
like, you're not just like, oh, which if you're going to be honest with yourself, that's fine. Like, if you're like, I'm just paying this because I don't want to do it, like,
Or I
be
want to
honest with
buy
yourself.
time to relax, yeah. Like, the end goal is to have control your own time so that if you wanna take a day off, you can just take a day off, but I see what you're saying. I think Alex Hormozy mentioned this I think he
Yeah.
brought it up in the context of outsourcing. He's like, a lot of people get into outsourcing to where, like, now they're the CEO and when they started the business, they were doing accounting, they were doing sales, they were doing product development, and now you have someone, you can outsource someone, you can pay them to do product development for you, but for you to keep improving, now you've got to find something to do with that time that you just bought back. So if you just buy the time back, now you're just out however much you paid them. But if you take however much you paid them and then the time that you spent doing what they're doing now, like maybe it's 4 hours a day, so that's 20 hours a week. And with that 20 hours, you start like reaching out to other people or other businesses and seeing if you can do collaborations that may bring you another 5 figures a year or something like that. So I see what you're saying there. That like if you're saying no to something, try to replace it with something else that is good, because I do know that personally it is easy to say no to something and then just like slack off instead of saying no to something and then doing something else that's productive. I think that's a
Yeah.
really good point.
Yeah. And like, that same point is like, we have a small apartment, like it's like 800 square feet, but like, she works a lot. I'm currently injured. So like, it's hard to like clean and dust and everything, like on her work schedule and on mine. So like, we've been thinking about hiring a cleaner. Like, this person comes in every once a month or once every 2 weeks for $30 a month. And it's like, we don't want to do that. And we're not saying it's to make us more money. Like, it's to save us more time. Like, we want to hang out more together. Like, she doesn't want to come home and clean, and I don't want to try to hobble around and clean. So like, trying to be honest with yourself, like, hey, we're hiring this because we want to, and be confident in that decision. Like, because learning to say no is a hard thing for other people. Like, people get mad when you say no because they always think you're going to say yes.
Yeah,
But
so
Keep
Go
going.
ahead. So in that case, you mentioned like basically that you'd pay someone $30 a month to come and clean. In that case, you're basically taking $30, paying them, and then you're getting that hour back, or maybe even 2 or 3 hours. So now you've bought a $30 date with your fiance. So that can seem a little weird, but if you think about it like that, so what you're doing is instead of both of you cleaning, and maybe both of you don't like cleaning, and at the end of it, like maybe you're not in
She
the
loves
best mood.
cleaning, so that's a problem.
Oh, I see, I see. Yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. If you don't have to outsource things, or you also don't have to say no to things if you like doing them. For example, in turning those videos into MP4s, if I liked going to YouTube and downloading the file and putting them in a folder, that would have been great. But I do not. That's not something I like to do in my free time. So saying yes to that was like kind of a commitment that I made like to them, and I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have said no.
And that's exactly right. Like when I just because I designed your website and then I was like, hey, I can code it as well. Like I really enjoyed the designing, so I was like, I'll take some time out to do this. Like I did enjoy this. I know how to do it. I can do it proficiently. So like if you enjoy something, if you're like, I love changing oil, like I love working on my car, like you don't have to say no to that.
That's actually a really good
Like,
point. So like you've made the design in Figma, right?
yeah.
And then the second part of that was taking that design and turning it into an actual website, HTML and CSS. And you're saying the design part you'd say yes to again
Yeah.
because you actually enjoyed it and you didn't really have to learn any new skills. But the HTML and CSS, you got into that and you're like, this is not my area of expertise. My time is better spent working on more articles or maybe even designing something else. But that's a good point.
It's really interesting thinking when you say no to something, so like if I was in Figma and I was like, because you were like, I didn't learn any new skills, and I learned a couple of things, but that was the point of this is like, what skills are you willing to say yes to while you're learning? Like if I'm in Figma and I'm like, oh, I can learn this whole new grid system while I'm designing, like, is that new grid system worth it? Like in my case, like, yeah, it would probably be worth it if I still enjoy designing and I can get better at that too. Like, look, it feels like there's micro yeses and micro nos in your actual yes and nos, if that makes sense too.
Yeah, like technically in the downloading MP4s and coming up with quizzes or whatever, when I said yes to that, what I actually meant was yes, I will pay someone to do that for me so that like the motivations are one, so that I can have all those MP4s if YouTube like deletes the channel in one place, and so I can have the quizzes, but also kind of like people pleasing, like, yes, I would love to do that for you. And if that wasn't like, I should have said no to that.
Yeah. Just a little off topic real quick. We should start the podcast out with saying how many words we've put out this month. So like if it's hired, if it's not hired, whatever. We don't have to go into that, but also what our traffic looks like to keep it updated each week.
All right. So
you know how like Graham Stephen, they're like, this podcast has made this so much so far.
We can
Something
start
like
off
that
by saying like, here's a 2 to 3 minute spiel of here's the last week, here's how much I've spent so far this month on content, here's how many words I have written, here's how many page views all of the sites have generated, here's the income. Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea.
And then we can put like a display or something at the bottom, or we'll come up with something. So yeah, speaking of that, that was 20 minutes. That's great. How are your analytics looking?
So there was a Google helpful content update. And then there was also I think a couple days ago, there was just a September core update that happened. I haven't seen too much volatility in mine, although I have seen some people on Twitters that are like, it goes and then like spikes, or someone else's is like, and there's just no more traffic. So a lot of other people have volatility, but I haven't really experienced that.
Yeah, I have. I don't have enough traffic to experience
still growing. Your impressions are still growing, right?
Yeah, the 13th I had 48, and then the 14th I had 33. But I've had a click every day now for the last 4 days, which is beautiful.
4 days in a row. That's not you, is it?
No. I've had 15 clicks since I've posted this sitemap the July 13th, so it's been 2 months.
Another thing, while we're on this topic that I just remembered, I added it to our list, was talking about Bing webmasters. So far we've only been talking about Google Webmaster and like the Google Search Console.
Yeah, I uploaded mine.
This week you told me to upload, or you showed me about it, and I realized none of my sites were on being webmasters, and I did that, and they are getting clicks now. So that actually helped. I think maybe they have already been in being webmaster because like some of my sites are a couple years old. But now I actually have the analytics and like the keywords of what people are searching, how many impressions and stuff. So if you haven't applied to being webmaster, that is definitely a thing to do.
Yes, I agree by that. 1 second. I need to delete this one that I have because this is not working.
I have like 2, maybe 3 other good topics for this episode. I'm really excited to talk about, but we can keep talking about the webmaster stats.
Yeah, there's I've heard someone talk about voice search, how sometimes they're different. Like, I'd be interested to know more about voice search, how like Alexa and Google and Siri, like, who do they pull their voice search from? Like, can you submit a sitemap for that?
That's a good point. I had a news website that I submitted to a news sitemap.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
It's not going the best. So the way that news
Oh.
sitemaps work is they only keep the sitemap only holds links for the last 48 hours. So if it was published in the last 48 hours, it's on the news sitemap, and then once it's past 48, it goes away. So it really only matters for new content. And I'm actually slowing down that website, that news website. I'm just
Oh, you're not really?
The past like 6 to 8 months, I've just been throwing like $3,000 a month into it, and it's not doing anything. So I definitely, in my opinion, I think I'm overpaying those writers. One of them is getting 20 cents a word, and that's ridiculous. I mean, it's on a technical concept or technical topic of like crypto, but still 20 cents a word is a lot.
Man. Yeah, so what were your, let me go back to what was another, backlinks? Oh no, are you talking about the ROI of sites?
No, we can talk about both of these. I'll talk about the ROI of sites real quick. So one thing I've noticed that I haven't really had anyone else point out yet. So if you put $10,000 into the stock market, the average return right now, it's a little wonky, the economic like place we're in right now, but generally historically it's like 6 to 7%, and you can like regularly expect that as long as the world doesn't like go some crazy way the next like 5 years. 6% is good. And what I've noticed on these niche websites, the ROI on them is like usually 30%, which is 5 times better than the S&P. And so I'm really interested to know why there aren't like big capital, like a $20 million investment of like just acquiring a bunch of micro niche sites and then like just returning 30% year over year. I know one downside is that a lot of these sites are like really volatile. So like with the helpful content update or this core update, some sites got knocked out, like almost all their money gone overnight. And maybe that's because they used AI and they're not good sites. But I think that's the only downside I can think of, is that a lot of this stuff is kind of volatile in the sense of what you're in. But I just wanted to make a note of that, of like a lot of the site, like I was looking at to buy a website on Flippa for like $1,200, $1,500. I ended up not buying it. But the ROI and how much it was currently making compared to how much I would buy it for, even if I bought it like over normal price, was like 12%, and 12% is like twice as much as the S&P. So these websites, basically, if you take the money that you earn from them and put them back into the website, into content or buying another website, it seems to me to be a really good roadmap to get like really wealthy in like 5 to 10 years. Now, obviously, the one downside is like search results are like quite volatile, and you're heavily dependent on Google most of the time. But what are your thoughts on this? Like 30% is really high.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. On another question, you were talking about this. It's the same thing. You were talking about people, their traffic getting hit from this.
Mm-hmm.
And do people, because you see your traffic get hit, do they just give up on the sites, or they're like, hey, I need to put more effort into this site because like it has this opportunity, it's just the content's not good enough, like I can get back to this? Or people are just like, yeah, no, this site got hit, not worth my time, let me find another loophole to jump through?
No, that's a good point. And I've got 2 things to say about this. The first one is there's this guy on YouTube that's been hit like 4 or 5 times. So his traffic goes along and it's like up and then and then it goes along, and then it's like up a little bit and then down a little bit. He's at like 4 or 5 times, and he keeps making YouTube videos that updates this. I would say his name, but I don't want to make him feel bad. You might know who I'm talking about, but
maybe
he he's still working on it, and I guess once part of it is like he's still putting YouTube content out about it. But I would have, like, after all that volatility, I would have probably just given up and like moved on to something else, like kept it as a, what is it, sunk cost, and been like, it's time to start a new domain on a new topic or something like that. And there was a second part of that answer that I have forgot. I should have written it down, but I forgot it.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't really seen the results of the website yet, so I can't speak much to like profit and 30%. And like, it sounds great. I haven't seen it yet. I'm working to see it, so we can revisit that at another time.
Oh, I remember my second thing. It was about AI websites. So I heard about this strategy on Twitter where someone was going out and making like 10 to 20 AI websites, and they would just make like 1,000 posts per website. So that might be 10 to 20,000 posts. And on these websites, you sit them and you just let them rank for like 3 to 6 months. And then what you do is you take a look at them and you say, what are the top keywords that this AI created that it's actually ranking for? Because if the AI can rank for it, what it means is that if you, a human, made content on that topic, it would probably do pretty well, because it's like you could add pictures, videos, and stuff, and maybe like make a phone call to somewhere and actually put in data in the article. And I thought that was a really interesting strategy. I think I sent you the link. Did you read through that? Or
yeah,
I was like, this is really interesting. I would love to do this on like the niches of what I have.
That gentleman was penalized for doing 30 million views a year, I think it was.
Yeah, that's crazy. But
it's his second site that's been banned. Like,
I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder how much that data is worth. Like, if he could make 4 or 5 sites like that, but on the topics of the content that I'm creating, and then I could just buy that data from him, like I'd pay probably a couple $1,000s just to get the list of keywords that, like, you put 1,000 words up and you're ranking number 1.
I would love just a straight list of like, these will be the best performing. Like, all right, I'll do them all.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because I know, like, what I'm doing right now on like the pet website, I know, you know how I said there was like an XY table and you match the dog with the keyword or whatever. I know that, like, and I know this because I've looked at the analytics of some other dog websites on Flippa. Some of them are going to be like, I guess it's the 80-20 principle. So we're like, maybe 10 of them are going to bring in most of the traffic, and then the other 60 that I have written are going to be like duds. And so if I could know which of the like 20 articles that are going to bring in most of the traffic are, without having to write the other 80, that would be super helpful. I would save a bunch of money.
Would you say the other 80, though, will be good in building authority for your site?
Oh, yeah, you're definitely right. That topical authority.
Yeah.
I feel like I think I have like 80 to 100 keywords for each dog. And there are some dog websites out there that are making like $100 a month, and they don't even have, they're on one dog and they don't even have 80 articles. So
that's
specifically
crazy.
That one that I looked on Flippa that I ended up not winning, I was like, there's 2 or 3 articles on this domain that are just making most of the money. It would be really easy for me to take those keywords and then only write about those.
That's what has me worried a little bit. Is like getting my one category to 100 posts and being like, oh, now we just got to let it set for a couple of years and really get it kicking. Like, that's going to be the fun part, is like, I've written all this. Now let's see if I can get some reward out of it. Because some people are like, if you write the right post, you can get enough traffic to start making money. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what the right posts are at this moment.
Yeah. I will say something that I think will jumpstart you ranking is backlinks. So I've always been like, just let your content sit and it'll get backlinks. And now that I'm actually doing some backlink building, I'm like, I probably should have been doing this a little bit earlier. Specifically, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, keep going. No, you go. You're good.
So I've actually went a couple routes with this. I hired some guy on Fiverr that doesn't do spammy backlinks, but what they do is they basically do help a reporter outreach. So they just like keep you in mind when they're looking through the results or whatever, and then they submit those. So that person on Fiverr, I've got 3 or 4 people on Upwork that do basically the same thing, but with being on Upwork, like, you think that maybe there'll be a little more like quality in them compared to Fiverr. And then I also bought I think it was like 5 links from authority builders. I think it's authority.builder is the website. And I actually got those in today. I can make a comment on them. Those, it's called a niche edits. So what you do is you tell them, hey, I want to backlink to this page, and then they go and find a page on the internet where they can put that link in and it makes sense. And then they reach out to the webmaster and basically pay them, and then tell you, hey, do you want to go ahead and put this there? And those links that I've received, they haven't actually done them yet. They submitted them to me for approval for me to say yes or no, I want this link. The ones that I've looked at, the domains are like DR50, DR45, DR54. So they're good links. But the pages that they're on, you know how Ahrefs has like a DR and a UR? One's for like the domain and one's for like the specific page.
Yeah.
The specific pages really suck. So I think I paid like $1,000 for these 5 links. And I just wanted to see, like, if this works, I'll just keep dumping money in this. But I'm not impressed with these 5 links. So I think the next thing I may test with them is see how the Haro works. The niche edits, the experience I've had with niche edits is that because I've hired other people on Upwork to also do niche edits, and their links aren't the best. So I may just wait and see how the help a reporter out works, because those links are going to be like for fresh content, and it's going to be like relevant, and it's going to be like, I think editorial is what they call it. So like people writing news articles.
Yeah.
So I'm going to test that out for a little bit. What's that?
So I'm on the helpareporter.com website. I'm interested.
You can do it for free. You don't have to pay someone, but it's quite a bit of work. And they're reporters, so they like content from specialists. So for example, on my psychology website, I have actual psychologists. If you were to do it, I would, well, I don't want to out you again. I think you have an idea of who you would want on your about page for it to be the person that they reference.
Yeah.
And the same for like the dog stuff. I might get some vets, like literally just find some veterinarians on Upwork and be like, hey, can I add you to my about page? You review some articles every month and I'll pay you. So I think that may be something that I try if it works out well. I don't want to keep spending money on it if it doesn't work.
I'm also going to say right now, it's so nice. I just randomly clicked onto it's so nice seeing your articles getting traffic and knowing that you haven't been on the website. You're like, oh, wow, like these are getting actual traffic now. Though a couple people are going to my About Us, which probably should fill out a little bit more.
Does that still have the lorem ipsum?
No, I don't believe so. It might have a couple a little bit, but no. I need to. Do you know how is GA4 to? Because I've been trying to figure out how to get rid of my internal traffic, but I cannot get it to work.
Oh, to make sure that you're not logging your own IP within Google Analytics 4?
Yeah, it's not working. I can't get it.
Yeah, no idea. I haven't really messed with Google Analytics 4, which before we started this podcast, we had a small talk about, you sent me a Snapchat and you're like, hey, I want to take a Google Analytics 4 course so that I can understand it. And my response to that was like, that's an amazing idea that I have never had before. And I was almost like surprised. I was like, my only thoughts when it comes to GA4 is I hate this thing. I wish they would go back to Universal, because I knew how to do it. But you were like kind of thinking out of the box, and I really appreciate that. You were like, what if we just took a course that taught us how to use it? Like maybe it is as good as other people are saying. I haven't taken a course yet, so I can't say that. But I did find a free one on YouTube that's like an hour long that I'm probably going to watch after this. So
I got you, TJ.
You going to watch it too?
Oh, I figured out how to do it. You want me to walk you through it real quick?
Google Analytics?
Yeah. We'll make a tiny little tutorial here. All right. Are you on GA4?
Let me pull it up here. I'm not going to share my screen or anything because I'll actually have like the name and the.
No,
IP.
You're good. Are you on there?
Yeah, I've got it pulled up. And then you go to admin.
Right. So go to admin. Do you have your internal traffic filtered?
No.
Oh, okay. So then you go down to, one second, let me actually, so then you go to data streams under property.
I knew that one.
Then you go to your website, of course. And then you go down to configure tag settings below Google tag. And then you go down to show all under settings and then define internal traffic.
That was pretty easy. I literally did everything you just said and it worked. Like I haven't put in define internal traffic. I just create a rule, and then I put my own IP in there.
Yeah, so under your IP, is my phone IP different from my computer IP? I was having that question the other day.
So real quick, if some internet providers replace your IP every like 2 months, every 6 months or whatever, maybe when you turn your router off and you turn it back on, they give you a new IP. So you might have to update that every now and then. Now, to answer your question about your phone versus your computer, let me ask you, the IP that you have in there, does it start with 192.168 something?
No, mine is 2600.
Don't say it.
Oh.
2600. Is there a bunch of colons?
Yeah, I think it's an IPv6.
Yeah, that's a version 6. So the IP that your computer has,
don't say,
will have a different IP than what your phone has if your phone is on a different network. So if you're using like LTE or 5G, 4G or whatever it is, and it's not connected to the same Wi-Fi that your computer is, you'll just have to put in another thing there. That's hard to do though, because the phone one, like you go to another county, or you travel a couple like 20, 30 miles and you'll have probably a new IP. So it's kind of hard to like keep that updated, but.
So should I use my IPv6 one when I Google what's my IP?
Is it not working? Because if it's not working, that's probably why.
Oh, no, I just didn't know. I put it in now. Let me see if it works.
Oh, yeah, you said you hadn't set it up yet.
Hopefully it works here. All right, users in the last 30 minutes. Yeah, because I got some traffic from Brookfield, and I was...
You're fine. You're fine. That's probably me.
This is terrible. Yeah, guys, don't come find us, please. And I was like, who's viewing my site from there? But then I also have some from where I'm at, and I'm like, because I really haven't even been looking at my site because I'm like, I don't want to influence the traffic. Like, I want to see an authentic version right now. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't look like it's impacting it now.
That's good. And you said you haven't been like doing searches to see if you pop up in the search results or whatever?
Google I'll do sometimes if it's like your position 3 and I'm like, no, I'm not.
But you won't click on them, yeah.
Oh, never mind. Users in the last 30 minutes. JK. Here I am. I wonder if it'll register. Yeah, it says it says users in the last 30 minutes, so I don't know if it's going to register it for tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, go to when you type into Google, what is my IP? Does 4 numbers pop up? Not like the IPv6, but the IPv4?
No, I think I can get IPv4 though.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I got my IPv4 as here as well.
You can put that in there and just see if it works. The other thing is if you go to a specific page on your domain, you can see if it pops up in the last 30 minutes. And if it does, then it means you haven't fixed it yet.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm on there right now. My traffic just popped up. Well.
Also, another thing that I'll mention is that I recently moved one website of a domain over to another website on another domain. Like I 301 redirected it, which was a lot more difficult than I thought. I think I spent like 2 or 3 hours on it, setting up a 301 redirect. And when I did that within the Google Search Console, it just was not working. Like I would click try again, and it would check, and it would say, hey, your homepage is not redirected. And I did that for like 2 or 3 hours trying to figure this out. Then I waited like the next day, and I clicked it, and it worked. And so then I was reading about it, and it was like, sometimes you just have to wait. Like Google has just had to like re-crawl your website and realize that like, oh, it's all 301 redirecting. So that was kind of a sucky like issue that I dealt with for 2 or 3 hours.
And so Google did finally approve it?
Yeah, I kept refreshing it, and it was like, your homepage is not, like all these pages work, but your homepage is not 301 redirecting, so we can't move it. And so I kept trying stuff to redirect the homepage, and for me, it was working. And then I just waited. I waited for the next day because I think I saw someone mentioned it on Stack Exchange or something like that. And then they were like, just give it a day or two, let Google recrawl your site, and it'll work. And I waited 24 hours, and it worked. So, but like I said, I spent like 2 or 3 hours trying to redirect my homepage.
It's so disappointing. Oh man, what is else? Oh, crypto yeses. Oh, you already did that one. Dang, we've already.
I want to go over
stuff.
I found this YouTube channel that I'm really appreciate. So I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. Hopefully it doesn't automatically play videos, but you can see who I am subscribed to. But can you see that? Is that backwards?
Yeah, no, you're fine.
This website right here, or
What's
this
the name of
YouTube
it?
channel, it's called
Blogsprout?
Blogsprout. I am amazed at them having like, what is this, 18, 19, 20, 21 videos, and they have over 1,000 subscribers. That's a pretty good ratio. Actually, I'm curious, which is there one that went super viral? So it's just the income reports that are doing well.
It seems like everyone does well with income reports.
Yeah, this may be something that we need to try out.
Yeah. Yeah, these guys are getting a lot of good. Yeah, with your numbers, people will click like hell on that.
Yeah, I think this month, my main site alone is at 12,000. Not like we're halfway through the month, it's already at 12,000, but like for the last 30 days, it's at 12,000. So December, when I actually get paid, that's going to be a good month.
December, is it every 3 months?
What you have, so like this is September, October, November, and then the third month is when you get paid for what that is. You don't get paid every 3 months, but it's lagging by 3 months. So like January, I'll get paid what I earned next month, and so on. It's kind of, I actually kind of like how that's set up because inherently, like working online is a little not predictable. Like a video on YouTube could go viral, and then like 1 month you make a bunch of money, the next month you hardly make anything at all because of the algorithms. So I like how they have that spaced out in 3 months so that I know what I'm getting paid next month, and it's a lot more predictable.
Yeah, looking at this person's YouTube channel, I think we could do better with some video topics and how we structure them.
Actually, now that you mention this, this is actually how I came up with my main YouTube channel, and then also the idea of the YouTube channel that we kind of started together on the crypto one, where I saw someone else in the space like kind of succeeding. I was like, they're doing a pretty good job, but we could do better. So it's interesting that you mentioned that.
I think it'd be really interesting because these are just from perspectives of one person. Like, have a joint account. You know what I mean? Like, where you have your videos, you can be like, hey, this is my income report. And then I have my own playlist where like, hey, this is his income report. And then we come together.
That talk about it every now and then.
That sounds like we should look into that.
Yeah, we should. That would be interesting. You need to get Ezoic on your website because if you're getting clicks, I'm really interested to see what your RPM is. For those watching, Nico and I have talked about this, and I did some research, and I think his RPM is going to be like over 100. By the way, I found a new niche that I think I might. Let me see if I can.
How do I get on Ezoic? You're gonna have to show me that because I don't. I tried it once and it was a process.
It is. That's why I said I like Mediavine more because when you need help, they're like the next 4 hours are dedicated to you. Will help you. And Ezoic's like you have to drive to their studio to get them to answer a question, and their studio is like in another country or something. So that was an analogy, by the way. But like it's self-serve pretty much. But what I was going to say is that your RPM or EPMV might be over 100, which is crazy. But I came up with another niche. I don't want you to say it yet because I haven't created it or anything like that. But I think this may be what I already started the gardening one. I can't dilute myself too much. But maybe we can segue into the next topic after this. But the topic. So don't say it. But you know what my dad does?
Oh yeah.
I was looking through some stuff of like the questions that people have about that, and I was like, there's some money in this. So it'd be interesting to get like 50 or 100 affiliates. That's true.
Like from some of those things are company. I don't know, TJ. Monetize. Yep. That'd be a good thing to try. Yeah. So is that your next one? 100 articles into that? Man, I'm at almost 30. We need to talk about articles for My Little Design, TJ.
Yes, after this call, we need to look up and see which ones you want.
Yeah, there you go.
I actually need to make note of that. I was going to segue this into the topic of active versus passive. So what you're doing right now is very active. Like you're literally creating the website, you're writing. But what I'm doing with some of these seed websites is kind of passive. So the keyword research side is a part that I think I have like expertise in. I know kind of which keywords are going to work, which ones aren't, and getting that set up. And I'm kind of doing it a little more passively to where it's bringing in money. And then some of these websites, I'm kind of just like putting, for example, the B one. I was going to tell you how much I put into that. How much money do you think I put into that?
$4,000.
It's way more than that.
$8,000?
It's more than that. You're on the right track though.
$10,000 into this website?
It's a little over 12,000. And it's
TJ,
not making
it's my website of 2 months are doing about the same.
I know, that's why I'm like, I need to get the ball rolling. What did I do wrong with this website? What are you doing right? So I can actually go through exactly what I've spent on. How much did I pay you to design that? Because you designed it. I don't have that written on there. So technically it's a little more than 13,000.
Geez, my site would be blowing up with $13,000.
I know. And I'm wondering if because you're uploading every day, and what I did on this site was I uploaded like 30 this day, waited a couple months, uploaded another 40. So I'm wondering if that
I've seen your SEMrush and it's like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So I can tell you what I spent the money on. So 8,000 of it was through passion posts. I had them write 80 articles that have 2,000 words. And maybe that's just the case. They're just actually not good at writing articles. But it's probably the case that I'm still in the sandbox. I'm not sure how the heck you got out of the sandbox in month one. But
do you think your issue is writing with 2,000 words? Like, do you think some of the content like Google's like, this does not need 2,000 words? You know what I mean? Like mine's all at 1,000 words right now that I'm going back and adding more.
That's a good point. Because I know if you upload like a 7,000 word, like one time I did a 7,000 word article, I think it may have been 6,000 on body language, and it covered all kinds of body language stuff, but it did not rank. I don't know if it's because it's like super competitive or what, but I had a ton of words and it's still up. I think it just did not rank.
I was thinking, in my personal opinion, I like shorter articles in a sense that link out to other articles that I can explore. Like if I'm exploring an 8,000 word blog post, I get like overwhelmed in a sense. I'm like, there's just so much here.
Actually, I agree with that. Like when I'm learning Solidity, in the time that I'm learning Solidity, I would rather have one article that's like the basics, and then if you want to learn more, click here, here, and here, and then I can open those tabs up if I want them. So I agree with that. As a user experience, I like maximum like 2,000 words if it's like an in-depth guide, to where like split it up among multiple articles. And that's a good way to like reach other keywords too, instead of trying to have a pillar post reach like 50,000 keywords or whatever.
Which you told me to do a pillar post on one of my sections. Mm-hmm. And I was really interested. I was like, man, would I do one big pillar post and then link out to this tiny pillar post that links out to like these 20 articles that talk about this topic?
What I would do if I were you is I would have the main pillar post just be around the main topic, and you don't even have to make it 2,000 words. Make it 1,000 words. But the only reason I'm calling it a pillar post is because that one specific article links out to 20 other articles, and those 20 other articles link back to that main one and say, hey, if you want the general idea of this, go to this article. So it's not a pillar post in the sense of it's huge. It's a pillar post in that it links out to everything and everything links back to it.
Yeah, that's something I would really be interested in, looking for a program or something that gives you a mind map of your links. Because like, you know, when like you just like think about your website and you're like, don't, you know, like those crime shows where like the pinpointed
everywhere.
Like I would love to see like, here's your topic, like here's all the links pointing to different ones, like, and then you go back and just restructure it.
There actually might be. Let me get back to you on that. I think there's a tool called Screaming Frog. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but what Screaming Frog is really good at finding the depth of content. So if you give it your URL and it's like, hey, you've got to click 8 links to go to this page. If you make it from 8 to like 3, that supposedly really helps. But I think they have a feature on there too that like you can see like you just mentioned, where it's like, here's all your pages and then here's how they link.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to like clean it up. Because you always hear about bloggers. They're like, yeah, internal link a little bit. Just put content on your website. And they're like, I make 10 grand a month. Like, I'm interested in like, how much can you really help your user experience to take that 10 to 15 potentially, or 15 to 20? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not at that point yet. So you said Screaming Frog?
Let
Free
me
SEO spider.
yes, I'm about to share an image. Hopefully it works. Can you see that?
Yes. Whoa, that's
So you can
cool.
find something like that. I actually bought Screaming Frog once. What's the price of this? Because we may use it together. The paid version, $209 a year. That's not
Better
bad.
than Ahrefs.
1 to 4 license too, so I could share it with you. They also, like I said, they have the depth page search feature too. So we may be making this investment after this call.
Yeah, I'm very interested. Oh, how have you looked into AMP any for your website?
No, I did that. I turned that on once on one of the crypto websites, and it messed up my sitemap. Like some of them were, some of them weren't, and then it started de-indexing some, and I was like, I need to fully understand this before I turn it on, so I turned it back off.
That makes sense. But 50 minutes, we've done it again, TJ. This actually, I'm liking. I think the podcast is getting a little better. We're a little off topic at times, but we'll get better there. We'll get there. Heck
I think
yeah.
there's a lot. Here's what I will say so far. I think if I were a viewer and I were to sit down and watch our podcast, I'd have to be these like the only person that I think that will watch our podcast front to end will be like when we hit like maybe 100,000 subscribers and they're like, I want to go back and see what they used to talk about. And they come back and watch front to end. I will also say, I think the content we have now is prime for basically one of us, or maybe we hire someone else to take our full episode and be like, here's an 8-minute clip, here's a 4-minute clip, here's a 6-minute clip, here's some shorts, and then turning that into like 30 or 40 different pieces. I think that would be a really useful thing to like increase reach.
Yeah, if we should look into that in December on like after all that's done. If we're like, hey, let's put some money into this, or like let's hire someone to do that. I think we should look into that.
Yeah, I will say after December we can also start working on the blog too itself. Make some very interesting. I think that'd be a really good idea to do, and I can devote my full day to it. I think it'll really grow. But also, by the time in December, if we were to do something like that, where we like set up shorts and like an 8-minute clip and stuff, we'll also have a ton of content to be able to do that too. So someone watches a short and they're like, this is interesting, and they go to our channel, then there's like 20 or 40 episodes that they can watch.
And then we'll both have webcams and potentially 1080p on this at some point.
That's true. That's true.
Or 4K if we could both figure out how to do OBS or something together.
Actually, I don't need that other camera. I could, that white one?
The one you bought from me that I sold to you.
Yeah. It's like the GSXR, but yeah, I could bring that up and help you set that up. The issue with, I don't have it. I wish I could reach it. The issue with these cameras is you can't just stream for like even more than 30 minutes. They just shut off.
That one, the battery dies. Yeah. So I would like that, but I don't want that, honestly, because I think I'm just going to get a webcam, because they have 4K ones that just sit on top of and it'll stream all day. No problem.
All right. I was going to say, actually, what I've done with my camera right now, and you can do it with the white one too, is you buy a battery that goes in there, and it's called a dummy battery, and then you just plug it into the wall.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do on that white one.
Yeah, that webcam idea seems like a lot better, though.
It seems a lot simpler. And it gets kind of bulky with the big camera, as I realized when I was at the other house with that white camera. Like, it just took up a lot of space.
Yeah. Another thing I'll mention is I actually have my camera like HDMI into an Elgato capture cam that's like ridiculous price. I think it was like $300. And so you won't need that. In OBS, you could just be like, switch this to the webcam, and then it'll work.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. But all right, we're at 50 minutes. We're going to end this episode. Thank you guys for watching in the future. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we covered everything we wanted to talk about, I think.
Yeah, we don't really have any viewers right now because none of our videos are actually public yet. But we're getting there.
Next episode, right?
Yeah. I have hope for this. I think it feels good, so that's what I like.
It feels really good to look back and see that we've done 4 actual like weeks. Technically 5 weeks, but we've done 4 full episodes, so.
Yeah, and just seeing like the progress, like slow progress, which is part of our consistency episode. It's been very nice. But we'll see you back next week with another topic. Nico out.
We'll see you later.
All right, peace out.